Hi everybody. We are going to do what I call a Renegade Larabar club. I know it's been a while, and Dylan's been busy every weekend because he has a life, which is rude. I don't have a life, and I'm not sure what that's like, so I'm just going to make a movie on my own. Since writing's kind of our thing we chat about, I'm going to talk about my other love, reading. Today I'm going to talk about a series that I guess slept on is what kids these days say, for a while. And I honestly didn't want to read it for a really long time because it was so popular. And I didn't want to have like an ACOTAR incident. I said that wrong. Where it's super popular and then I read it and I hate it, but then I can't stop because I want to know what happens. And then I waste like a weekend reading an awful series. And I'm sorry if anyone likes that series. I hated it. And one day I'm going to make a movie about why I hated it. I don't have the energy to do that right now. So I'm just going to talk about Shadow and Bone. Obvious spoiler alert. Like, I'm going to be talking about the book, so I'm going to like say what happens in the book. So if you haven't read it, high key the time to stop watching this. Yeah. So, I have my mismatched covers here because I bought the first one and then realized there are different covers that I liked better, and I bought the rest of them in that cover. But I'm going to talk about the series as a whole because honestly I read them all very close together and I'm not really sure where one begins and one ends. So I'm just going to talk about the trilogy in a sort of vague general way. So yeah, I liked this trilogy, but I also hated it. But I liked it. I'm not sure how I feel about it, I guess. So part of this will be me just like unfolding my own emotions and unpacking them live in front of everyone on a video. So Shadow and Bone, the first one, I know completely swept me off my feet. I adored it. And the second one, like I said, I don't remember what happened when exactly, but the second one was, I kind of was left with like okay, not the direction I would have gone, but like cool. And then the third one derailed a little bit. Like the ending, y'all, not good with the ending. I talked about this a little bit on my Instagram video, but I feel like a lot of times with trilogies, you get what, for lack of a better way of putting it, is like Stockholm Syndrome, where you're just like in it and you've been in it for so long, by the third book, you just like it because you have to. At least that's how I experience trilogies. So when I put down Ruin and Rising, I was like, that was fine. And then, I don't know, I thought about it and I was like, that is not fine. That is not fine, but let's slow down. I'm going to slow down a little bit. So Shadow and Bone set up great character conflicts, right? And I'm a huge fan of the Darkling, but mainly because I love, like, really self-absorbed, emotionally unavailable men. Like, that's my kryptonite. So anytime I really like a male character in a book, I'm like, they're probably actually awful. Self-awareness. But I love the Darkling. I thought he was really interesting and a really great, complicated character. And I'm really kind of sad about where that went. I think part of me really wanted this to be a villain origin story, like kind of like Heartless or some of the other ones that have come out. I really wanted Alina to struggle with the things she struggled with in the second book, and I felt like in the third book that just dropped. So you have, you know, the characters, really great characters. I'm super excited to read the other books in her series. I like the world. I like the characters. I know the characters aren't in, I know like Alina and stuff aren't in the other books, but like Nikolai's book I'm pretty pumped about reading and like all this stuff. So great setup in Shadow and Bone. You have this interesting world with this like magical system that has some like oppression elements to it. And I don't know, I read into everything like they're like talking about class struggle because that's just what I do. So I read into that. And then you have like, you know, this main character who is very insecure and not very attractive and discovers she's like the god of all magical like people, and literally becomes a saint later. And I thought that was interesting. And I do think that Leigh Bardugo, I'm going to butcher all of these names because they're in my head. I don't talk. Anyways, I think Leigh Bardugo did a really good job of tracking what that would actually be like for somebody to kind of be nobody and then and also be in the shadow of their best friend they're in love with, and then all of a sudden be like the shit, like a big deal. And I liked Alina at that point, and I think kind of getting swept off her feet a little bit made sense to me, because she went from being not noticed at all and also having this complex around being in love with her friend and having her friend just like banging everyone. And so, you know, you have the Darkling, who's like this romantic, like I said, I just like love emotionally unavailable men. So like immediately I was like, he's it. He's really attractive. But like tortured and angsty, but also really like flirtatious. And so she's completely swept off her feet. And that tension is throughout the series and throughout the rest of the trilogy. But he's also like low-key kind of evil, apparently. And then, I don't know. I'm going to stop here and talk about the Darkling. I feel like the Darkling's character development sucked, and I'm mad about it. He, in the first book, was just such an interesting, dynamic character. He hinted towards being tortured, but also did a lot of this, like, really awful stuff. Like, you know, creating the whole fold thing. And I really feel like he just became a tyrant at the end in a way that wasn't very interesting, and I didn't, like... He just committed all these atrocities to make him very unlikable, and I really enjoyed the time period where the Darkling was more of a sympathetic villain, because those are interesting to me, and I don't like villains that are just like, I'm gonna kill all the children. Like, that's not interesting. That's just bad. Like, why would you do that to the Darkling? Why would you make him do that? So, I don't know. I like... When I say I love the Darkling, I love Shadow and Bone Darkling. Not a huge fan of Ruin and Rising Darkling. He just went in a place. His character development direction did not go in the way at all that I wanted him to or was interested in. Which is why I feel like the second and third book were like less good for me, because the character that like hooked me in became kind of two-dimensional in a way that was annoying. So anyway, so you get Alina, and then the second book, speaking of character development, Alina really struggles with the fact that she also has all this power, and she's really afraid of the fact that she likes it a lot, which makes sense. Like, if you grew up being shit on, and then all of a sudden you're awesome, according to everyone else, and you're gonna save everyone, and you have all this power, like, you might spend a little bit of time, like, enjoying that. I know I would. So... she's struggling with that, and then there's, like, this really real struggle that she's going to turn into, like, kind of this Darkling figure, because they're so similar in that they both have this, like, vast amount of power, and I think at one point the Darkling did have some good intentions around trying to fix, like, the issues in this country, and she does too. So... like, I was really, like, hoping that she would just go evil, and maybe that says a lot about who I am as a person, but I was really kind of upset that this wasn't a villain origin story. Anyways, so she's struggling a lot with that in the second book, and she, like, that's a real character problem in Siege and Storm. I forget the names. That kind of, I feel like, goes away in Ruin and Rising completely. Like... or not completely, but she's like, I'm worried about this. And then there's, like, that scene where Mal's like, don't worry, you're not like that. And then I feel like after that, it just, like, solved. And I was like, what? Like, your problems aren't solved when some, like, hot dude tells you that they are. Like, I wish that was the case. I'd get on Tinder more often. But, like, I just feel like... I don't know. It just resolved in a very, like, superficial way to me. Which is disappointing, because I feel like it was set up so well. And I think my dislike of Ruin and Rising is that I feel like it was lazy when those two, like, the first two books were not lazy. They were very, like, well done and well crafted and built really well. So then to have this third book that's, like, kind of lazy and, like, wraps things up super neatly, I was just like... I don't have a word for how I felt about this book. And, so yeah, that's kind of my really general overarching critique. I also just hated Mal. I'm sorry, I hate him. And like I said, maybe that just says more about my, like, personal issues around needing to seek the attention and approval of emotionally unavailable men, but Mal was annoying. He was just so, like, I wouldn't even say he was perfect, because he, like, definitely sucked in the second book. He definitely was, like, making it all about him and, like, being miserable and not even acknowledging that it might be a big deal for Alina to have all this, like, stuff happen to her. Like, he was just like, you've changed a lot. It's like, well, no fucking shit, Mal. Like, she kind of has a lot going on, Mal. Maybe be sympathetic, but no, you have to go, like, make out with Zoya and shit, like, whatever. Anyways, I was just annoyed with him, and I was really, like, they're just, like, their love story was not exciting to me, because, like, he ignores her and is a douche canoe in the first book, and then all of a sudden, the third book, he's like, oh, I always had a crush on you. I'm like, no, you didn't, Mal. You were banging everyone else, Mal. That's a lie. He did not have a crush on her. Like, it really annoyed me. He was just like, yeah, I used to, like, have a crush on you, and I felt bad about it because you're my friend. I'm like, then why did you ignore her in the first book? That was the first conflict in the book, was that you were ignoring her, and she was sad. Anyways. I don't know. I really just didn't. I don't know. And his personality just was a little too all over the place. So as, like, a reader, that was annoying to me, too, where I felt like he was one thing in the first book, then another thing in the second book, and then another thing in the third book, and not in, like, a character development way. Like, Alina was very different from book 1 to book 3, but her development made sense. The Darkling had development. It didn't make as much sense, and it, like, frustrated me. But Mal was just kind of like whatever Mal needed to be for the plot to work. I just feel like his personality just changed. I don't know, maybe I'm just being too harsh because I didn't like him at all. I don't know, he just really, and I think that also made Ruin Rising annoying for me, because, like, the book is about their love story, and I didn't like him, so I was just like, can we not do this? Like, I was so pumped when I thought we'd, like, have to kill him. I was like, fuck yeah, Mal, die! And then, like, he didn't die. And then, like, they're saving him, and I was just like, no, don't, guys, stop it, just let him die. Let him die. And can we talk about how the Darkling dies, which he might not be dead? I don't know. Like, but if he is dead, like, offensive. We're gonna off the Darkling with a knife to the chest. This is the Darkling. We've been scared of him for 3 fucking books. And then he's just gonna, like, die from a knife wound. That's fucking offensive. It's just offensive. I don't know. That character deserved a better death. He really did. He has been terrifying for the last 2 books. In the first book, he was kind of hot. And then he's kind of been, like, this scary force for, like, 600 plus pages. And then you just put a knife in his chest and call it a day? What? Why not just have him, like, get food poisoning and, like, bleed out of his nose? I don't know. That, it's equivalent to me. Like, have him eat bad chicken and die of salmonella. I was reading it, I'm like, really? That's it? Like, that's how you're gonna kill him? What? You should do that better. You should kill him better. And leave Mal dead. He doesn't need to get resurrected. Like, I get what happened, but I'm like, it's been so annoying. I'm not saying annoying people should die. Don't misread that. So that's, like, my completely unedited first impressions of this book, or this trilogy. I'm a very character-driven reader, so that's why I talked mostly about the character issues, because that's what I follow. And I get there's, like, this whole other plot thing happening. And the plot beyond the character stuff was fine. It was well done, you know, and overall I really actually liked it. So, yeah, that is my impressions. Yeah, I hope that my handful of subscribers enjoyed this little rant about my emotional problems and the characters of Shadow and Bone. I will be reading 6 of Crows as soon as it gets to my door. It's en route a la the book depository, which takes forever, but it's free shipping, so not complaining. A little complaining is pretty. But I like Grishaverse. Did I say that right? I don't know. I like the way that Leigh Bardugo writes, and I like her characters, or at least her characters evoke emotional reactions out of me, which to me is a success as a reader anyways. Like, I don't have to like Mal, but the fact that I reacted strongly to him is good, because it means that he was real enough to me where I could have a reaction, right? So, anyways, that is my takeaway of these books. I hope you all have a wonderful week. And if you have any books that you want me to talk about, you can comment or not. I don't know, you're a free individual. I'm gonna try to do this for books I have feelings about. Okay, me. You all agree.